Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, to celebrate SainSmart's 15-year anniversary, I created this 3D relief carving using Carveco, and I then carved it out on my Genmitsu 4040 Pro MAX CNC using a tapered ball nose bit, and then I went back and added some details to kind of make things pop a little bit with the color. And I did that with the Genmitsu Kortek 10-watt laser. After it was all done, I went ahead and I used a map gas torch to kind of make some of the areas pop on the 3D relief. And I actually ran into a little bit of a problem with that, and I'll talk about that and show it to you in the video. But yeah, let's jump in. I lost most of the footage of me actually designing in Carveco Maker Plus, so I'm going ahead and basically just recreating a little bit of what I've done. So here under Generate with AI, I choose Image to Relief. I had originally worked with AI to help come up with the general design, and then I went ahead and I pulled a bunch of images that I wanted to use from the internet. So choosing the Image to Relief option was the better choice here, because it's going to constrain it and basically give me exactly what it is that I'm looking for. So I just go ahead and use some of these credits, and I'm able to generate a relief of this SainSmart mascot. Okay, so there we have this mascot, and you can see it kind of comes out a little bit like a potato chip on the background. And they have that awesome feature where you could just click remove background, and it just flattens all that out. It makes creating these reliefs so much easier and nicer to have that option. And here's another great feature, the ability to adjust the zero plane. This tool can be really beneficial depending on your design. And in this case, I'm just using it to eliminate anything in excess of what I need. So you can see here, as I adjust it, I can start to see the thumb disappear. So I adjust it up and down until I just start to see the thumb disappear, and then I just back it off a little bit. And then here you have the depth slider, where you can just play around with that until you get it to your liking. And just messing around a little bit more, make sure I like it. And then I always save to the clip art library. Even if I am going to use it in a new model, I just save everything to here first. I prefer to do it this way because then I can just import it into any project that I'm working on and paste it down wherever I choose. It also allows me to manipulate it when I bring it in. I can go ahead and adjust the depth and position it as I see fit. So here I am just starting a new job. I created I believe it was a 15 1/4 or so that I knew it would fit on the Genmitsu 4040 Pro Max CNC's workbed. So here I'm just going into the clip art library to pull in that relief that I had created. And you see it there with the little SainSmart guy, the mascot. So you could pull in these reliefs, and then you can position them however you want, and then you can adjust the depth of the relief. And then, once you're completely happy with its position, you can go ahead and paste it down, and that'll make it one with the rest of the model. And I tend to hold off on pasting things down until I know I'm completely satisfied. So here I'm just going in, and I'm just going to pull in, a bunch of the other reliefs that I had worked on and used in the model. Like, they got their little cardboard cutter and a bunch of their different lasers. There's the L8, and I have the 4040 Pro Max. So yeah, when you're designing, you can position things like this anywhere you want, and then you can adjust their depth and scale them Yeah, I think this guy's kind of cool. Those little sunglasses. So you can see when I'm doing that you can see the profile vectors. See right there when I went to the 2D view, it shows you all of the profile vectors for each one of these 3D reliefs. And that's really useful because I can export those out and use them in other software like Lightburn. So here I'm just going to show you guys how I created the 3D relief for all the words that I used. I just imported in vectors that I had pulled off of the internet, and then I'm just extruding them up. And so I'm choosing round, and then I'm just pulling up. Likewise, you could push them down into the project using that slider right there. If you just push all the way down, they'll actually recess down into the workpiece. You can limit the height, which gives you like that flat top. You see, instead of just having it completely round, you can end up with almost like a plateau. So you can see here, I'm pushing it down to show how it can become like the negative of the relief. So the same applies for this little head here. It's just geometry, so you could just choose to extrude it, and I go with rounds and extrude it up until you're happy with the shape. And then I selected the visor, and you can extrude that, and you see how it extrudes up from the previous one. Yeah, so I was just messing around with the heights, and here I select those 3 ovals and just extrude those real quick. So now I'm just going to jump into a time lapse of the roughing, followed by the finishing passes on the CNC. So here we have the roughing, and it's done in 2 passes. I used a 1/4-inch downcut bit for this. And then here's the finishing pass with a tapered ball's nose. It never gets old watching the 3D relief get carved. So here I'm showing how I export my vectors out of Carveco, and then I can go ahead and import them into Lightburn. So it's simply a matter of saving it as an SVG. So here I'm going to be using a technique that I just haven't seen anybody use before. I'm basically going to use the framing of the laser to act as kind of like a poor man's print and cut. So here the vectors got pulled in from Carveco. I changed them from fill to line. So here's my setup. I just have the Kortek laser propped up on some pieces of wood, and I just take the vectors that I'm looking to engrave, part of the G code, and I frame it. I make sure that it's framing in the right spot, and if I need to, I can move the sign around, or I can move the vectors inside of Lightburn. Here I am just checking out back in Carveco again to see that the vectors are in the right spot compared to the 3D relief. And once everything's lined up, I just go ahead and laser it. So here I am just using the framing for the next set of G code as well, making sure that it lines up the way I want it to, and then I'm just going to send it. And so here, after it's lasered, we take those vectors and we just move them up. I'm leaving the last 2 lines within the workspace so that I can use them to frame. And that's going to make sure that everything lines up nicely. It's like the print and cut feature I was talking about. Once I frame and get everything lined up, I'll just go ahead. In this case, I delete them, But what I really should do is just put them onto a tool layer, like the T1 or the T2. So here we are just framing those two lines. In this case, I'm moving the sign to get it to line up properly. And here's where I'm deleting them when I really should just put them on a different layer. Now we'll put that text on the black layer and we'll engrave it. Here I'm going to add my logo onto the bed of the 4040 Pro Max on the sign. I'm going to be doing this a little bit different. On some of the other ones, I was framing and I was moving the sign to get it to line up properly. On this one, I'm going to continually move the geometry and reframe until I get it lined up the way I want it. I just figured I'd show a different way of doing it. So you could see me moving the logo and then framing. I would move the logo again and frame again. I just keep doing this until I have it lined up exactly where you want it. I'm going to speed it up a little and go through some of the other engravings I put on here. This is the Wood Starter logo, which is under the umbrella of SainSmart. And of course, Genmitsu. This Kortek laser that I'm engraving with actually came from Wood Starter. So big shout out to them and to SainSmart for being so supportive of me and my channel. I really wanted to create this project using only SainSmart products. This process would have been a lot easier had I have done it on a larger laser, but I wanted to show that it could be done using this Kortek. This part up here was what turned out to be my favorite part of the sign. I just love the way it came out. So overall, I'm very pleased with how this project turned out. Between all the machines and the G-code and the different logos. But had I used a larger laser, I would have added more details to all the machines. So in an effort to add a little more detail to some of the 3D reliefs, I'm using this torch. And as I'm sure you already know from my thumbnail, things did not go as planned. I'm really moving the torch around pretty fast to keep it from burning anything. I'm really just trying to give those edges a little bit more definition, a little more contrast. So here's where things go sideways. Gas was escaping from the can and turned into a little ball of flame. Okay, guys, so this is the issue with the torch. There are these two set screws here. They're like little Allen key set screws. And they basically just tighten up this whole portion of the piping right here. They must have backed out and came loose over time. And in doing so, there was some play. And my guess is that the gas was able to escape before coming out the pipe. The gas was escaping right here. And at some point, the gases were able to escape and get to the point where the flame was coming out the nozzle. It then caught that gas on fire, and there must have been gas all around the whole map can. So, yeah, basically the whole thing just kind of went up in a little ball of flame. And I had to run out of here and chuck it like a grenade. But I just went ahead and I tightened up those two set screws, and it tightened everything up. It's actually still got a little bit of wiggle, but I'll just tighten it up a little bit more. But yeah, just went back in and was able to continue torching using a new can. But definitely check yours out, see if there's any play, if there's any slop, and go ahead and tighten those 2 set screws so that you don't have that same problem that I did. So I was able to get back to torching and finishing up the sign. I can tell you that from torching the face of it, the wood turned into kind of like a potato chip. And to remedy that, I just flipped it over and I torched the backside, and that straightened it right back out. If you guys could go ahead and like this video and subscribe, I'm really trying to grow this channel. And if you guys are interested in purchasing any of the SainSmart products, I'm going to leave a link in the description. It's just another way that you can help support the channel. And they have a pretty decent sale right now going on to mark their anniversary. So go ahead and use those links to check them out. And if you guys have any questions about the build, please go ahead and just leave them in the comments and I'll answer them. But yeah, this was it was a fun build. I really enjoyed it. And a happy 15-year anniversary to SainSmart. I just want to give them another shout out for supporting my channel as well as the maker community. All right. I'll see you guys on the next one.